So I guess I need to call the meeting to order. The Education Committee today, May 26th. I'm supposed to read something here. This meeting is being held pursuant to the Executive Order number 16 by the Governor of the State of Tennessee. It is being held electronically due to the need to protect health, safety, and well-being of the citizenry, and without objection. We'll proceed in that manner. As such, all members of the committee must be able to hear the chairman and each other. If you cannot hear other members, please notify the chairman immediately. All votes will be done by roll call, and when you speak to a matter, please identify yourself. This meeting is available to the public on Public Access TV and is streaming live on YouTube. I will now call the roll, or Ms. Ashton will.
Chairman Tunnicliffe.
Tunnicliffe here.
Commissioner Beathard.
Beathard here.
Commissioner Hester.
Hester here.
Commissioner Story.
Story here.
Commissioner Hudson. Commissioner Williams.
Williams present.
And Commissioner Beal.
Bill here.
Perfect. I only show Commissioner Hudson as absent.
Thank you, Ashton. We'll start right in on the resolutions as a B. So resolution number 6-20-1, resolution appropriating and amending the general purpose school funds by $1,084,000 pay interest on energy systems conservation debt, revenues to come from energy savings.
Move for approval. Hester.
Story second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this, or Mr. Golden, would you like to address this?
Yes, sir, I'll address that. That is a request that Nina Graham made from you. That has not gone to our board. It's based on our historical use of the what we call the ESCO, Energy Savings Corporation funding. So we will have to do a special called meeting to get that approved. And I think Ms. Holman wants to address that as well.
Was that for, what fund number is she indicating on that? 151 and 153, or is it 141?
141. It's decrease in electricity cost and debt service contribution to primary government.
No, pull that one. That one's not one that we've even taken to our board. So if you can pull that one.
It says school board 12-0 on it, but okay. All right.
Nina had brought the details of that to Leslie right about the time we were having our work session, so we weren't able to get it on. But that actually, Leslie, may not be the exact one that I thought I was talking about.
Well, if it's got 141, that's my fund. And that's originally the way that I had written it, but we've changed it. We haven't taken to the board yet.
I assume I don't need to do anything to take that resolution off. It's been motioned and seconded. Do we need to do something?
Is Ms. Graham here?
No, possibly we will be bringing that back after we have a special called meeting to have, we're going to have a discussion with Rogers, and we may bring that one back. And so it might be a late filed resolution because I've got to get it in by June. But it has not been approved by our board yet. So I don't want to bring it to y'all until it's been approved by the board.
Chair, may I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Mr. Story? So, and this is from the ESCO agreements that we've been working with, or the projects, programs that we've been working with. I mean, a lot of that is based on the savings or usage. Is there I just want to make it for the record, because every time we bring this up, everybody has to remember what the ESCO does. But one of the big things that I was thinking about, because of the potential massive decrease of use of electricity or utilities at our schools the last couple of months, we're still safe on paying money towards this, because even if we don't use enough to save enough, how does that interact? Because that's kind of an interesting scenario that not a lot of people potentially thought of.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mark Samuels has managed that and actually managed a couple of those contracts over the years. He could probably give the most efficient answer to that question.
The contract requires Train, in this case, to guarantee a certain amount of savings based on the stuff they put in place. We're making those savings. So the terms of the financing terms is paid out of the savings. So there's no conflict or potential problem there because we are not making payments to energy payments based on bills. And that's billing is where that is kind of the baseline of. So there shouldn't be concern there. We have not addressed doing a readjustment of the baseline just because we haven't been in place, but we don't really have to.
Yeah.
So the guaranteed savings we're meeting there, and in fact, probably have some excess savings at this point.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mark, I feel like we're about 2 years into this most recent program with the energy savings. Are we hitting those initial targets that were kind of put out there? If I remember correctly, it was 20% guaranteed, something along those lines.
Yes, sir. We're meeting those targets. They've actually exceeded them by a little bit, not that much. We are about to enter into a third phase. We have work going on now. So the program is running very well. And we're just doing great.
Good.
Commissioner Little, are you on here?
I'm sorry?
Commissioner Little, what should be our protocol on this amendment that's been motioned and approved and seconded?
Leslie is going to pull the resolution to be considered at a later date. Your best bet is to ask the second and the person who made the motion to rescind those, and then that just gets it off the floor. If they'll take their second back, take the motion back, that gets it off the floor. If she represents it, you can either have a special called meeting or it'll go to budget without a education committee recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Story, are you willing to remove your second?
Yeah, I rescind my second.
Ms. Hester?
I rescind my motion to approve.
Thank you very much. Next resolution then, 6-20-2. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2019-2020 general purpose school budget by $600,000 for additional special education expenses, revenue to come from fund balance. Do I have a motion?
Story, motion to approve.
Hester, motion to second.
Thank you. Mr. Golden?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is for special ed expenses, including attorney's fees. It's something that we don't budget for. It's quite unpredictable. We might have a significant amount in one year and none the next. And so traditionally, what we do is Leslie comes this time of year and makes a request of you for that. I will tell you also that we talked about special education numbers really in the context of COVID-19 and distance learning. This is not directly related to that. But we have about 8,000 students in the district who have either an IEP or a 504 plan, which fits that that general definition that folks traditionally think of as special education.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from commissioners? Hearing no questions, would we like
I'm
to?
sorry, Commissioner, I apologize. I'm not fast enough to buzz in. This is Commissioner Bill. Can I have one question, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner.
I would lose at Jeopardy every single time. I'm not that quick. The 600 grand, can you put it in perspective of how much it's been over the past couple of years? Is this about the same amount, more?
That's a good question. I can speak generally to that, and Leslie may be able to speak more specifically. This is a little higher than this is higher than last year. I do remember that. Leslie may be able to give some better perspective. She will lose on Jeopardy as well.
Yeah.
I don't even,
She's going to call you something before she unmutes first.
I could read lips.
Leslie, you're still muted.
If you wiggle your cursor, Leslie, the on the bottom row, a bunch of circles appear. It's the one on the far left. If it's red, just click on it.
If this is a way of
There
stopping
she
it,
is. There you go, Leslie.
Did you do it? I'm looking at Munis. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, you're
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, I'm looking at Munis. I wasn't ignoring you. I was trying to get the information since I didn't even ask the question. Last year, it was 163,000. 2 years ago, it was 593,000. This year so far, it's 612,000. So I need an additional, well, it's not, we only budgeted at that 100,000 and we're already 635,000 over.
So you can see it's those 3 years. It spiked two years ago, went down last year, and it spiked again. So
and a follow-up question, if you don't mind, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Again, these are attorney's fees. These aren't settlements or judgment awards or anything like this. These are pure attorney's fees.
that's right. And I'll be happy to have a strategic discussion with you offline. Because I know, based on a number of y'all's experience professionally, you may have some questions about that. But it is a very unpredictable budget line.
But having said that, I don't think it's anything we have a choice about. I mean, it's fees due, so it's not something we can, in my humble opinion, we can debate much. I mean, it's legal fees earned that have been contracted for, so we don't have much choice. I don't think.
No, that's correct.
Chair, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, sir. Any other chairman have a question or concern? I'm giving it extra time, Bobby. Seeing no more questions, we'll go ahead and vote. Ms. Ashton, will you call the vote out?
Chairman Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes?
Commissioner Bethard,
Bethard, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Williams, yes.
and Commissioner Beal.
Bill, yes.
I have it as 6-0 unanimous.
Thank you, Ms. Ashton. Next resolution, resolution number 620-3. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2019-2020 general purpose school operating budget by $70,000 for property insurance claims, revenue to come from fund balance. Mr.
Story, motion to approve.
Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Story, motion to approve.
Hester, second.
Thank you, guys. Sorry about that. Mr. Golden?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Likewise, this is an end of the year issue for unpredictable expense related to property claims. And so we're making a request of you to amend the budget for that amount for the claims. And again, Leslie may be able to give you some detail if you need.
Mr. Chair, question.
Please.
Jason, with the recent round of storms that have come through, did we have any significant damage to any of the buildings?
We didn't have any significant damage to buildings. We had a few trees down, so we still have a little bit of work that's going to need to be done. I can think of one that's actually on a property line. Mark may have some specifics, but fortunately, unlike many other storms, we did not have anything significant. Mark?
We've had a few roof issues that are manageable. Tree issues at about 6 or 7 schools are pushing us into the $20,000 to $25,000 range for some of the removal. That stuff, it's just a fair amount in one spot, but nothing other than that, and no significant damage inside the buildings as well.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have a question? Hearing no more questions, we'll call for a vote. Ms. Ashton?
Chairman Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Bethard,
Bethard, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Williams, yes.
and Commissioner Beal.
Bill, yes.
I have it 6-0 unanimous.
Thank you, Ash. Next resolution, 6-20-4. Resolution amending the 2019-2020 General Purpose School Fund, Central Cafeteria Fund, and Extended School Program Fund budgets for COVID-19 related expenses, revenues to come from FEMA funds and fund balance. A motion?
Story motion.
Hester, second.
Story, yeah, Story motion approved. Hester.
Mr. Golden?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request to move some funds from the general fund to cover employee expenses and for pay. Oh no, I got it wrong. Sorry, Leslie, I had the wrong one. So I may just defer to Ms. Holman and let her answer that for you.
Perfect.
Okay. We were made aware of a grant that through the FEMA funds, and so we've been charging in all three funds of our operational funds that we have. We've got the general purpose school fund, the cafeteria fund, and the extended school day. And so I have accrued, what they have been doing is charging things that are COVID related to these line items. And the expectation is that the federal funds will cover 75%, and then we'll have to put up the other 25%. So that's what this budget is representing. I want to appropriate the funds from fund balance and the FEMA funds.
And if I'm not mistaken, we also created another line item based on the recommendations to address this. Is that correct?
Three different line items. The comptroller has sent us three new major categories, and within those three major categories has given us several lines within object codes within those three major categories.
Any questions?
Chair, one quick point.
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
I appreciate you all being vigilant on these grants for sure. I mean, these are these are decent sized numbers, and the taxpayers appreciate you guys staying on that. Thank you.
Leslie's done a good job with that. I will also tell you that she had a phone call with a professional, just a courtesy phone call, just to get them to double check us. Someone who does this kind of work with FEMA regularly. Obviously, we don't work with FEMA regularly. So in addition to her doing that, she did a double check as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leslie. Any other questions or comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Ashton?
Chairman Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Bethard,
Bethard, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Williams, yes.
and Commissioner Beal.
Bill, yes.
I have it 6-0 unanimous.
Thank you, Ashton. Next resolution, 6-20-5. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2019-2020 Central Cafeteria Fund up to $575,000 for payroll cost incurred during COVID-19 revenues. It says to come from other funds. Motion?
Motion to approve. Story.
Can I ask a question about that one?
Still need a second.
Give me a second.
Need a quick second.
How much is that one for?
Bill, second.
Thank you, Bob. Ms. Holman, would you like to address this? Go ahead.
Yeah, I will. How much is that one for? Is that 500,000 or is that 575,000?
575,000.
Okay, yes, I will address that one. Continue to pay our employees when the COVID experience has us all off guard. The cafeteria fund is a fee it's based off of fees generated through the services that we provide. Because we stopped our cafeteria and our extended school day, no more fees were coming in, but we continued to pay the cafeteria salaries. In projecting that, we realized that we would end up in a bad situation in the cafeteria fund. Their fund balance was not strong enough to take them to the end of the year. So we became aware of the CARES Act, which can be used for keeping people employed. So that is what we're going to use the money for. It will come from the School Federal Projects Fund, and that's why it looks like transfers in instead of this CARES Act money, but it is the School Federal Projects receiving the money and then sending it to the cafeteria fund to use to pay those salaries.
I have nothing to add to that.
Thank you. Any questions, Commissioners?
Bill, a question, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir, Commissioner, please.
I'm sorry, I just didn't understand. Has the money from the CARES Act already been received, or are we waiting for that money to be received?
It is
We
not.
have to-
Go ahead, Leslie.
We have to apply for it, and we are in the stages of applying for it. We had to wait for state guidance on that, but I've been in contact with the Department of Education since March when I became aware that these funds would be available, and they assured us that we could use it for this purpose. So no, we have not received them, but we will set them up as a receivable, and therefore that would keep our fund from going into both a cash and a
And I'm assuming that that would come back before the commission when we receive the funds for it to be distributed according to what we are doing here.
No, this is the budget resolution to record that action.
So we won't receive the funds without submitting a request to them. And when they pay the funds to us, it will have to be spent based on that request we made of them. So we're structuring it to make the request of you all first to get the approval so that we can specify for them what we will be using the funds for. We can't make a decision to use the funds for something different once we've received them.
Again, Commissioner, Chairman, thank you.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, any other questions?
Commissioner Bethard with a question.
Yes, sir.
So you have to have commissioner approval just to apply for this CARES Act money?
No, we don't. But I have to be able to get these funds recorded in the cafeteria fund. I have to make a budget amendment. And what I'm funding the budget amendment by is the amount of money that we're going to get through the CARES Act. That's what I'm bringing the resolution for. We're going to apply for the funds and we'll get them, but I have to get your all's permission to get them into my books. That's what what these budget amendments are for, to record it into the books since it's a this year expenditure that I'm going to apply that grant onto.
Would it not be more appropriate to come before the commission once you already received the funds? Or what happens if for some reason you don't receive these funds?
Well, again, we've already been told we're going to get 588,000. The federal government has already told us we're getting 588,000. That I'm only appropriating 575 is because we have to give some to the nonprofit. What are they, Jay? Nonprofit school systems within the county, or profit school systems that are within the county. So that's why I'm pulling in. We already know that the federal government is giving us $588,000. We just had to determine how we wanted to use these funds. And it became apparent that the cafeteria fund could not pay all the salaries that we've been paying without these funds. And in fact, there will probably be another resolution, again, that I've got to get the board to, that we use fund balance from general purpose to take up slack. Again, they ran out of they are not collecting fees during this time to be able to generate funds to pay the salaries that we had committed to pay the cafeteria workers.
So Commissioner, your question is, what if the promise we've received from the federal government doesn't actually come to fruition?
Either doesn't come to fruition or comes in at a different amount, either more or less. Again, I'm just wondering why we wouldn't commit this exercise once the funds are already in hand.
Well, because I'm matching it to the year in which we incurred the expenditures. We're incurring the expenditures right now. And so I have got to match the revenue that they've already told us that we're going to get of $588,000.
So to make sure I understand and explain it in terms that work for me, we're hitting the end of this budget year, and to close it out for accounting purposes, you have to make the transfer in this year before June 30th. Yeah, I'm asking you to.
No, it's not a transfer. It's new revenue coming in. And it's new revenue coming in that I'm using to pay the current cafeteria salaries that we've been paying, and there's not enough money in the cafeteria fund to have funded them. So I'm paying them. We'll end up at the end of the year in a deficit if I don't get additional revenue in there. Federal government has committed to $588,000 to Williamson County, and we are going to apply. It took the state until May 26th to determine how they, it's federal government and state government. The federal government can use the money for this. Then the state had to determine how they wanted the money to be applied for. So we were waiting for guidance. But it is this year's money. We know the amount of the money, and we're going to use it for cafeteria salaries.
So to use my vernacular, I think the answer to your question, Commissioner, is to keep this year's budget balanced, the revenue needs to be placed in there in this year's budget. Is that accurate, Leslie?
So that we won't end the year with a deficit, a cash or fund deficit. We have got to have the money this year.
Okay, understood.
And if this is Commissioner Little, if I can interject, and this will be our last meeting before the end of the fiscal year, which is why it has to be done now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Tommy.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I believe we may have lost the chair.
No, I'm still here listening. I just wanted to make the comment that this was our last meeting before the end of the fiscal year, which is why it had to be done now. So,
I mean, the Education Committee Chair.
Oh, I'm here. Sorry. My son walked in the room. I apologize. Ms. Abson, are we ready to call this to a vote? Will you call it to a vote? Sorry.
Chairman Tunnicliffe,
Tunnicliffe, yes.
Commissioner Bethard,
Bethard, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Williams, yes.
and Commissioner Beal.
Bill, yes.
I have it 6-0 unanimous.
Thank you, Ashton. Next resolution. Resolution number 6-20-6. Resolution approving the lease purchase agreement for Chrome computers for digital learning. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, Hester.
Story, second.
Thank you, Commissioners. Leslie, Jason, one of you like to?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll address it and of course allow Leslie to answer some questions that you might have. The reason this is before you is because there's a requirement that you approve any lease purchase agreements because it does commit us for the term, at least commits our budget. And we would have to work out the details of that. Our proposal for the purchase of these Chromebooks is a zero interest 4-year lease purchase agreement. I will tell you that Ms. Holman studied hard that zero interest reference because traditionally, those of us who've seen those usually can figure out, well, somehow, some way, they're finding a way to get their interest. But our technology department is proposing to purchase the computers on what we've confirmed is zero interest and basically pay it over 4 years out of our operational budget, rather than our traditional request of you that we pay for it all at once with capital. So our belief is that this is going to be a net savings on the purchase that we've concluded we need, because there won't be any interest either through the capital budget or through an interest-bearing lease purchase agreement.
Any questions, commissioners?
Commissioner Hester, how many Chromebooks would this be?
18,555.
So,
And let me put a little bit of extra detail surrounding that. Our plan, that plan was actually in our budget before COVID-19 hit, but we recognize that we need to be prepared for the possibility that students need to learn remotely. And what we have decided to do is save about 17,000 of our older Chromebooks that we had planned to retire. We believe we may be able to squeeze a little bit out of them by trading parts and having our tech people work on that, so that we will have enough next year for every student to have one to meet that potential need. The 18,555 was originally planned as a replacement purchase plus growth.
thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Hearing no more concerns or questions, Ms. Ashland, will you call this to a vote, please?
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Williams, yes.
and Commissioner Beal.
Bill, yes.
I have it 6-0 unanimous.
Thank you, Ashton. Any more concludes our resolutions? Is there any new business that needs to come before the committee? Yes.
If I may, Mr. Chair, there's one missing, which is a revenue item for you all, which is the trustees commission that we passed. It may be missing from your agenda.
Did it not get filed? Not being there, I don't know what got filed. So,
I don't remember signing one like that.
oh my. Well,
What was the title of it, Leslie?
it's trustees commission, trustees.
Trustee commission.
I don't remember that.
For $600,000.
Okay, I found it where you sent it to me at one point. I guess it did not get filed. Do we need to late file it?
I guess so. I mean, the board's approved it.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, this is when it comes, it's an annual item. The county and the school system budget the revenue side of property tax at 92%. So every year, this time of year, we resolve that gap and give the additional funds to the trustee to cover that. It's how the trustee gets paid and runs their office.
Thank you, Jason. Bobby Cook, you're on, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say, unless there's some way for Jason to send that out to all the members. No vote can be taken on it. However, it's not really required before it goes to the budget and then county commission.
Thank you, sir.
Did Ashton, when you sent the resolution, or did you wait until you got them filed before you sent them to the education committee?
I sent an unfiled copy earlier this morning, and then I got the filed ones back later, so they got both copies.
Okay.
For what it's worth,
I must
Mr. Chair,
I apologize.
Mr. Chair, for what it's worth, it's a housekeeping item that we're required by law to give to the county.
Commissioners on the committee here, those of you that are listening, and we're not going to vote on this evidently, do you have any questions or concerns that we might want to relay forward to a budget committee?
Commissioner Bill, that just seems like a significant gap.
It is because I usually budget at last year's trustees commission. You all do not appropriate, but 98%, well, actually, you all use an 8% delinquent rate, but we collect 99% of taxes. And so I don't want to record as an expenditure until later and show that the excess property tax that I'm receiving, extra $600,000 of commission that I have to pay, I want to match it to the property taxes when it comes in. If we collected at a 92% rate, there'd be use to that, but you all collect 99% of the tax rate, but budget for it. So I don't want to budget the trustees commission until we receive that money. And that it's a normal thing that I've budgeted for every year.
And Commissioner Beal, I don't want to speak for the county, but that's part of the parameter we're given every year, at least on that portion of the revenue side of the budget for budgeting purposes. I don't want to speak for Mr. Little, but he may know some history of it, because that is, for the 14 or so years I've been here, that's been the standard parameter, one of the parameters that we have when we go through our budgeting process.
This is about what we do every year. It goes up a little bit each year, but that's because we budget at 92%. And so all of the departments will have this at the year end, which will be their trustee commission. We will usually see a lot of these in June.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Beal, does that answer your questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions? Seeing none or hearing none, I'll be happy to take a motion to adjourn if someone wants to make it.
Jason.
Wait,
To adjourn, Bethany?
Leslie.
I just want, I didn't know if you wanted to mention that we are taking a resolution for another $500,000 out of general purpose school fund to help with that other one that we're using the CARE Act money for.
So it's possible, we're looking at, and for based on Ms. Graham's request of us and some final budgeting work Leslie's doing related to COVID-19, we may have a special called meeting ourselves in a month before the commission meeting. She's double checking the expense side of our budgets to make sure that we close out our books properly. And that example is food service that she's talking about.
And I'm 99% positive we're going to come with this resolution to be able to finalize the cafeteria fund. I just want to let y'all know because it'll be a late filed resolution and it'll be something that wasn't, and if you want to discuss it, we can discuss it, but I just wanted to let you know that beyond the $575,000 that we're from the CARES Act, I'm also going to ask for another $500,000 from the general purpose fund balance to help fund the need of the cafeteria fund to pay those salaries.
Any commissioners would like to ask questions of that? No one's raising a hand or saying anything. Leslie, do you have anything else you want to add before I Let's adjourn this meeting.
I'm just so used to doing this. No.
I know, I appreciate it.
Last thing, I just wanted to make sure y'all knew it wouldn't catch you off guard.
We'll save all our questions for that for June. How about for July? All right. How's that? All right, good. I'm someone to make a motion.
Story motion to adjourn. Price second, Story second.
Folks, we have a motion and a second. I think we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.